Fuck December. It's the worst month out of all of them, and I'll tell you why. When I was a kid, I was up in my room playing my video games. There was a huge snowstorm going on outside, and I'll admit, that part was cozy. My dad was out front, shoveling the driveway, and my mom was in the kitchen, making dinner. I had been playing video games for so long, I needed to stand up and stretch my legs. I went downstairs to go check on my mom, when I noticed our front door was wide open. It was literally a blizzard outside, and snow was coming in. I went to go shut it, and looked out to see my dad. I saw his footprints trailing to the back of the house. Maybe he opened it and forgot to shut it. I was about to shut the front door when I saw something. In the middle of our front yard was this large red spot. I squinted, and it looked like a puddle of blood. I threw on my jacket and went to investigate. As I got closer, I stepped on something that crunched beneath my feet. I brushed back the snow and saw a frozen old man's face staring back up at me. I screamed like a little schoolgirl. I ran inside and went to go get my mom. To make a long story short, the man who I found was a World War II veteran. He'd slipped earlier in the day, walking his dog, and collapsed onto our yard. He died from his injuries. The disturbing part was that he was in our front yard for so long, he almost completely froze. Now, whenever December comes around, I can't help but think of that old man that I found. It's been over 10 years since this happened, and I still have nightmares. I was always the problem child in the family. I was the youngest and easily the most rebellious. Around Christmas time, my whole family was going to go out to the mall, but I had to stay home because I cursed out my dad. I was 13 at the time. They thought it was a punishment for me, but I really didn't care. They all left, and I was home alone at the house. We had a dog, Scooter, at the time. He was a Great Dane. He kept me company while they were gone. I was upstairs in the computer room, playing RuneScape. Out of nowhere, Scooter starts barking like crazy. I hear the front door open downstairs, and I figured it was just my family coming home. I called down to them, but got no response. The whole time, Scooter is still barking. Nervous at this point, I tiptoe down the stairs to further investigate. I get to the bottom of the steps and notice that my front door is wide open. Scooter is still barking, but from the kitchen. I walk slowly and peek my head around the hallway corner. In my kitchen were two men going through my refrigerator, and these weren't like well-dressed men. Their clothes were tattered, and they both had on these worn-out beanies. One of them turned around and saw me looking. His eyes were very weird, like they were looking in opposite directions, almost like they were crossed. He dropped the loaf of bread that he was holding and said, "Don't worry, kid, we're Santa's little elves." Scooter kept barking, and I full-on sprinted back up to my room. I called my parents, who told me to stay there. They were only 5 minutes away. My dad called the police, but by the time my parents got home, the two men had fled. I had to give descriptions and times for everything, and I was super overwhelmed by the whole process. Never again did I stay home alone without my parents. Hell, I'm a grown-ass man now, and I still get creeped out. Police never did end up catching the men. I'm staying anonymous for this story because I know everyone will judge me. When I was home alone from college during Christmas break a few years back, I was dating multiple guys. They didn't know about each other, and they all thought that I was monogamous to them. Like I said, please don't judge. My parents were gone for the night, and I had my boyfriend come over, Trevor. We didn't do anything crazy, just made out and watched a movie in my living room. And after Trevor left, my other boyfriend, Sid, texted me and said he was coming over. And I kinda liked Sid more and decided to throw on something sexy for him. And I should state that it was snowing outside. Anyway, as I was getting ready for Sid to come over, my phone starts ringing. I figured it's him saying he's here, but it wasn't. It was a number with all zeros in it. I picked up. There was someone breathing really heavy. Then they spoke and said I've been a naughty girl this year, and Santa doesn't like that. I asked who this was, but they hung up. I was a little nervous because I was thinking someone knew about me having multiple boyfriends. About 15 minutes later, Sid arrived. I let him in. The first thing he said to me was, "Who was that man standing outside your house?" He said when he pulled up, there was an older man standing by one of the front windows and looking in. I was really freaked out at this point and made Sid walk around the whole outside of my house. He didn't find anyone. And I was so freaked out that I wasn't in the mood to hook up or anything. Sid got pissed at me because I wasn't giving it up, and he ended up leaving. My parents came home really late. As I lay awake in my bed, at like 2 in the morning, I saw I had a voicemail. I played it, and it was that same voice from earlier, saying he knows I'm seeing multiple men. I ended up getting a whole new phone and number that Christmas. When I did, those calls stopped coming. I have no idea who was calling me, or how in the world they knew my personal business. And as far as I know, none of my then boyfriends knew about each other. So whoever that man was, he never reached out to them. Okay, so this will make me sound crazy, but I swear it's 100% true. This story happened around mid-December of 2021. I live alone, out in a heavily wooded area in Wisconsin. I have what people call a cabin home, and I love it. Well, since I live in the woods, I'm used to seeing all sorts of animals and creatures. One evening, I couldn't sleep. I tried playing scary YouTube stories to help, but it didn't. I decided to go downstairs to my kitchen and make a bowl of some ramen noodles. I wolfed it down and went to the sink to clean my dish. I should note that my kitchen sink window faces my backyard where my car is parked. I'm just mindlessly scrubbing my dish and looking out the window when I see a coyote right next to my car. And it was locking eyes with me, and it was still as a statue. At this point, I wasn't scared, as I'm used to seeing wolves and bears all the time. The next thing I know, the coyote stands up on 2 legs and walks away, just like a human would. I seriously could not believe my eyes. I quickly ran to my room and grabbed my phone to record it. But when I got back to the window, it was gone. I went outside and studied the footprints in the snow. The prints were nearly the size of mine and looked human. I took pictures and still have them saved. I looked out to where the prints trailed off. They disappeared into the woods behind my house, but I seriously was too afraid to go in there and follow it. All my friends tell me what I saw was a baby cub, but that just isn't true. I know what bears look like, and I know what coyotes look like. I seriously, for the life of me, cannot explain how the coyote did what it did. I've since set up cameras all around my place in hopes to catch it on camera, but so far, no luck. Everyone thinks I'm crazy, but I saw what I saw. And to me, it's only more proof that skinwalkers exist. If I ever catch it on camera again, I'll be sure to send you over the photos. My parents have a winter house up in the Pocono Mountains. During the winter time, every other weekend, we would go up and visit it. The house was on a slight incline, and my room was in the basement, surrounded by windows and a sliding glass door. Our place was at least a half a mile away from any other houses near us, so we wouldn't see a lot of people unless we headed into town. As was my usual routine up there, I would watch TV until late at night, then head down to bed. One night, I headed down to the basement, and I was tossing and turning most of the night. I had been watching some horror movie earlier on, and was having trouble sleeping. I woke up after getting about 30 minutes of sleep. I looked at my phone, which read 2:45 a.m., and I was a bit groggy, and just so happened to look out the sliding door. There was a man. He had on a hood, which blocked most of his facial features. It was also snowing out, and I couldn't really get a good look at him. He stood there at the door, not moving at all, and looking right at me. I tried screaming, but I literally couldn't get any noise out. I can still remember that, just not getting any sound out at all. The man, in the most calm fashion, just slowly walked back into the woods, his movements jerky, as if he were a spider or something. And I tried to convince myself that I must have been dreaming the part about the hooded man. And trust me when I say, I didn't get any sleep that night, and refuse to sleep in the basement anymore.